Welcome to this week's special edition MTD Podcast. MTD on lockdown. We will be discussing what that means for our industry. I'm Giovanni Albanese, hosting today's show, a passionate engineer and proud member of the MTD team. I'm joined by Paul Jones, Managing Director of MTD CNC. Paul's relentless passion for engineering and marketing combined were the key ingredients which created the MTD CNC platform as we know it today. Welcome, Paul.
Hello, Gio. Hello, Colin as well. I believe he's joining us too. Sorry, Gio, I probably stole your thunder there.
No, we've also got the privilege to be joined by Colin Griffiths, Director of MTD Network. Colin's dedicated to helping the manufacturing sector by helping them win more work and business. And that task has never been as important as it is today. Welcome, Colin.
Gio, first of all, thank you very much. I've got a couple of quick points. Second, are you reading this off a script? And third, as part of the lockdown, it appears that I've become a massive Joe Wicks fan. I've videos, but they're not for public consumption, is all I can say.
Well, one of my first questions to you both were going to be, what have you been up to on lockdown? And I've been informed that you've been doing the Joe Wicks workout every morning. So I'm hoping that when I see you next, Colin, you're going to be ripped.
I don't know about ripped, more like torn up the front of the bin. I've sent it to you. It's not for public consumption, but I have done a special video about my joy with Joe Wicks. But we'll deal with that another time. I think it's not for public consumption, but it's also great to know that normally we film this in the studio. I am sitting here, not even with boxer shorts on, because I'm at home.
That is too much information, Mr. Wicks. Paul, what have you been up to?
Oh, well, I think one of the interesting things, Gio, is you're obviously at home as well, aren't you? And this is quite pertinent to where you live, actually. I heard that some cannibals broke into a convent near Coventry. Nuneaton. Yeah, loads of them.
Oh, right. Do you mind I know we're supposed to be recording this and I want to be involved, but do you mind if I leave after that? That's dreadful.
Yeah, no, I've been up to this week. It's been. Did you get that one, Gio? I'm hoping that.
No.
Did you say no?
You can explain it to me after the podcast, Paul.
So some cannibals broke into a convent near Coventry, Nuneaton. Yeah, loads of them. Come on. Yeah, no, I've been up to, I wouldn't say business as usual this week because we're all, trying and practicing the social distancing and following the government guidelines. So haven't been to any engineering companies or any machine tool companies, but personally, I've been filming in the office, been doing the daily show, which you would have seen. And that seems to have gone down well. And of course, trying to create add value to our platforms in order to be able to do things like this remotely. And it just shows how good digital technology is these days that actually we may never have to go out again. You never know.
The reason for this podcast is today really is to inform people that the frequency of the podcasts have increased now to Monday, Wednesday and Friday due to the demand from our clients and engineers in general. Paul, this is not the only thing that really has been increasing in frequency. Can you firstly, Paul and Colin, address the COVID-19 environment that we're all working within at the minute? You're obviously, Paul, you're working very closely to the CNC clients. Colin, you're working very closely with the manufacturers. Firstly, Colin, can you tell me, what you've been up to in regards to work with the manufacturing industry?
Well, first of all, with all this technology, we need to take a little step back. All the guys have stepped up in the team in terms of we've done question time and also and this we're doing also from our own front rooms or bedrooms, wherever it might be. All the technology now they've all sorted out. So great work effort from all the guys in the team. So thank you for that. Anyway, enough of that. I actually got an inquiry Sunday morning. I was looking a touch disheveled. That's probably no change. So Sunday morning, posted it on the net, or got in contact with the guys, posted it on MTD Network, and a load of MTD Network engineers have stepped up to mark and produced. There's 27 different parts, and they've stepped up, produced them, delivered them for Tuesday, and hopefully we're going into production run shortly. So watch this space. But I've been speaking to a lot of engineers. A lot of them really, they're still busy, still working hard. Obviously, they're on a bit of a sort of, keeping yourself away from each other, a bit of social, whatever the word is, but I can't remember. But it's also, we could sit and enjoy while I'm having a drink as well, just to keep it on a less serious note. But all the engineers are really busy, and well, Gina as well. She's got a social show going on, so just a bit of lightheartedness from everybody.
No, it's sorry, Paul.
I think, Colin, one of the things that you say, I know you do like to have a drink and stuff, but you're obviously at home a bit more now, and I know you are actually sportier than you look. I mean, we've seen some of your Joe Wick stuff, but I hear that you picked up a little niggle the other day at the gym. Oh, sorry, I meant Nigel. Was that him? But I think that's I think it's fabulous that the network has actually delivered, this, or been involved in this chain of the industry coming together. And I mean, that's fabulous that someone's one business, but it's fabulous that they're helping create, solutions to a virus that we have to remember that every day goes by, we're getting a day closer to the end of this. And I think that's the biggest message I always say to the people that work for us and to my family. I know a lot of people are going through, the tragedy of losing loved ones. But every day that goes by, we get closer to, even today they mentioned that, there's this test, the Samba 2, I believe, which has already been used at Addenbrooke's, and it's 10 portable machines that can detect the COVID-19 in 90 minutes, so people aren't having to wait 24 hours for test results. And these are going to be rolled out. And I know, as pretty much as we're talking, the NHS have specified a number of 100,000 tests a day by the end of the month. So some might say that it's not come quick enough, and okay, that is an argument, but everybody is coming together to try and get us out of this as fast as possible.
I think
Can I say as well? I was chatting to Paul Cox from Asset Finance Northampton earlier, and we've got all the testing going on, but a big drain on everybody at the moment is the finance side of things. Absolutely, how are these businesses going to keep operating if more like pubs, for example, they're not open, things like that. But he's dealing with, it's called CBILS, which is, and I had to write this down, Coronavirus Business Interruption Lending Scheme. So it looks like the finance companies are starting to, they're stepping up to the mark there and helping businesses out if they've got issues in terms of their cash flow and things like that. So that's a great thing, just to help everybody out, as well as, as Paul said, the testing.
Yeah, I think it's great news. I think that the way in which the manufacturing sector is pulling together is absolutely brilliant. And we had a conversation the other day where you said, Paul, if it was an engineer looking to solve the problem of COVID-19, they'd find a solution. And in a way, engineers are indirectly, but a medical solution will be found soon, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, I think the biggest thing that's become apparent in my eyes to this, and I think this is, if there's any good that can come out of this terrible situation, it's the fact that, we've realised that we have frailties when it comes to the manufacturing of quantities of things that are needed in such a, in a pandemic. And I mean, when you look at the difference between us and Germany, I'm told that they had 100 test labs. As soon as this thing was identified, they had 100 test labs, which enabled them to do about 1 million tests a day or something unbelievable, and these are things that I like to think out of this. People will say, look, we really need to embrace what we do in Britain and make sure we keep as much manufacturing here as we possibly can, so that when these situations arise, we are, well and truly well equipped, to deal with them, because that's obviously been the shortfall here.
Paul, I'm going to interject there, and maybe this is a bit controversial, but I've got engineers at the moment who are waiting on people, and they're quiet on some aspects, but they're ready to go on these parts for ventilators and things like that. And there's people being very secretive about it, and they're not sort of forthcoming with information, and they want to help out and crack on with it. And I think the government and the big companies, the OEMs, need to step up to the mark and not be so secretive about what the flipping heck's going on in terms of production. They need to open up the doors and get out to these engineers and let them support them, because they're there and ready to go.
What is the criteria to qualify to be able to get involved? I've obviously seen and spoken to companies that are engaged in making some of these ventilators and the parts that go in them, but how do you become one of these companies? And you say you've got people waiting there for it. Is it maybe that they've not got the right inventory to support it? That maybe the right I don't know, the right accreditations? Do these things come into it? I don't know.
From what I've seen, I don't think it's about the accreditations and things. Stock is definitely an issue, but there's a lot of companies out there who are stepping up to mark in terms of supplying, your plastics, aluminium, steels, whatever it might be. I don't think that's the issue. I don't think the issue is with the engineers. I think it's higher up the food chain, essentially, and that just, can they cope with it? Do they know what they're doing? They're just procrastinating? And I'm going to throw this out there. It's a bit of a dark one, but every day, 24 hours this goes on, 300, 400, 500 people are dying. So, people need to just not be so cautious about things higher up the food chain, and they need to get out there to the market and get these engineers working.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, I'm interested as well, because you're at the coalface of this one, Colin. But I'm also, when I listen to Matt Hancock talking about the fact that a bad test is better than no test, and something like one of the tests they were offered was 3 out of the 4 tests came back and said I think they were negative, but they were actually positive. So I suppose there is an element of reticence to commit to anything too quickly, but that's probably not entirely what you're talking about. But just out of interest, are your engineers that are not making parts for these for these industries, are they still busy with their other normal production, or are they really suffering with what else they can actually do for people at the moment? Because a lot of big companies, the doors are shut.
You know what? It is a mix and match, actually. Some are really, some are chugging away, really busy and things like that, because, they might have, half the staff might have self-isolated, for example, bit of social distancing, whatever it might be, so that they still have contracts to complete and things like that. So a lot are still very, very busy. Some aren't. So that's a bit of a sit on the fence, but I'd say about 50-50. So there is capacity out there. And the ones who are busy, they're going to prioritise. If it's for ventilator parts, absolutely.
I've seen a lot of the end users on the Daily News channel that you and Colin have been doing, and they seem very buoyant.
Yes.
I mean, how is that channel going? And what are you trying to achieve with that channel, Paul?
I think the whole idea behind it was immediately when a crisis like this happens, and certainly when people are social distancing, they can't go into the office, they work from home. Immediately it was reported that the use of social media, the use of the internet, some figures quoted sort of 40 to 50% more traffic to social media channels, purely and simply because it's the way everyone gets their news. And when they haven't got, let's say, those handles to turn or those pens to push, they're going to visit the internet and view things, via those means. And so for me, it was a case of saying, right, okay, well, our content has never been wanted more, because obviously the audience has grown. And statistically, we were over 20% up, in fact, on our web traffic and on our social media platforms. So we wanted to quickly, and we've got some new other things that are coming out in the coming days and weeks, really, that are going to, just further extend what we're doing during the day to keep people up to speed of what's happening in manufacturing. But the idea was to really get some industry leaders, some people working, boots on the ground in machine shops as well, a real collective of different people, and find out how they're finding it. And I mean, I know Colin will support this, that within 2 or 3 days of doing it, we were inundated with requests from not just engineers but equipment manufacturers to be able to put their points across. So it couldn't really have gone any better, to be honest.
I'm just going to not interject, but one thing which sort of ties in with that. So obviously traffic and things like that has massively increased, as you'd expect, because people are at home. But I did see a very pertinent post on LinkedIn yesterday saying, guys, you are at home, you salesmen, whatever the salesman, things like that. I've got a load of, I'm manufacturing parts left, right, and centre here. It's crazy. Can you stop phoning me, emailing me? Because at the moment, I've got bigger priorities. So, I mean, I'm just throwing it out there because these guys are really, really busy. So, if you are at home, rather than making loads of sales calls, it's not the right time, is it? Let's be honest. But you can use social media, get upskilled. And this is why we're doing a podcast to keep people informed, to see what's going on.
Well, I think one of the things to add to that is obviously we've got a crew of we've got over 20 employees. The ones that are on the road all the time, of course, there's not going to be as much for them to do at the moment. I mean, so the general idea behind this from our perspective is that this is the time that they need to educate. This is the time that they need to learn new skills. This is the time that they need to look at what other people are doing and develop those areas, because there's one thing that it frustrates me immensely is when markets change, and we're fortunate enough for this not really to have impacted us for the reasons that we've discussed. But when markets change and they decline, people, the first thing they do is look at where they can save money, and marketing is often one of the first things that is the first casualty. But really, and I know it's a cliche and people say it a lot, this is the time, I believe, certainly for our business, and I'd like to think for our customers, to actually look at what they're doing. What do they do wrong? What do they do right? What can they do better? How can they keep the visibility of their business at an optimum during these times? Because, yeah, you're right, Colin, the purchasing habits of people at the moment is the furthest thing from their list. However, the awareness and the things that they're watching are things that they might not purchase today or tomorrow. But when they're looking again, when things pick up in 6 months, 8 months' time, people that raise that awareness now and keep their profiles high are probably likely to be one of the first on the top of the list. So for me, count on marketing our business even more in this period, and I'll make sure that all the guys that are not able to do their normal jobs will actually spend that time making sure that when we come through this in a few weeks' time, we hit the ground with new products, we hit the ground with new offerings, and we hit the ground, even further ahead of others within our industry than we were before.
I've been keeping a close eye on LinkedIn, Paul, and I've been keeping a close eye on your daily news channel that you and Colin have been producing daily, which is absolutely brilliant in my opinion. Just the other day, Darren from High Spec was on there, and he gave a great interview in regards to he's bought new equipment, and he was telling you all about his automation, how that's helped his business. Yesterday, last night actually, he put a post on LinkedIn saying he's won his first NHS work for the medical industry to help the COVID-19 crisis, and it's all being automated with the robo job. So now that machine is running 24/7, producing these parts. That wouldn't have been possible without automation. And not only that, albeit obviously the engineers that are going in, it's absolutely brilliant, but it's being done safely with automation. Colin?
I'm going to throw one in there as well. Sorry. Oh, not sorry, actually. I had an inquiry today about getting some specialist tooling. And this is just an example of stepping up to the mark. I actually got on the phone to a couple of, someone on MTD Network said, I'm doing some ventilator work. I need some specialist tooling. Can you help? Absolutely. Straight onto it. Made a couple of phone calls, and we had two. I actually spoke to Quick Grind and Sarah Tizzett, and they were straight onto it. They were absolutely brilliant. They really were. No disrespect to any other tooling companies, of course, but I just spoke to those two guys, and they were straight onto it. It's absolutely brilliant the way they're stepping up to the mark, and they're able to help these guys. Absolutely superb.
The high spec one, that the automation has made a massive difference to his business, to the tune of the fact that he the only reason he had the time to speak to us was because he is no longer now working on the machine, because the automation is giving him the time to be able to do the things that he couldn't do before. So, for example, he couldn't really work on the business because he was moving from one machine to another. He'd be doing his invoicing at night. He'd be all of those things that we almost take for granted. Answering the phone, he couldn't answer the phone properly to a customer without the noise of a machine in the background. But now he's taken his business to a different dimension, and he's had more time to actually not just keep the machine running, but actually do the things that he should be doing. So that's the only reason we got to speak to him.
I mean, it's a brilliant interview, Paul. I mean, he mentioned that, he would never look to purchase any machine in the future without automation now. It is got to be automated. Since he's, it's like he would never buy a machine without automation now, and it really has transformed the business. And as you mentioned, Paul, it is a fantastic time for all engineers, anyone within the engineering industry to really re-educate themselves and look at different processes, different solutions, different products. And it is the perfect opportunity for sellers to market their products, but because people have got a lot more time on their hands to investigate them and look at them in a lot more detail. I totally agree.
Automation. We did one with it was Contract Solutions, wasn't it, Paul? Just to confirm, Graham way up in Scotland, and that's a great example in terms of automation, because they bought a load of machines fully automated. With this COVID-19 going on, half their workforce had to self-isolate, but he was still able to keep going strong because he had the machines running full 24/7 still, because he had all the Lang systems and everything like that. It was absolutely, it was a great example of why you should be automating, not just for this environment, but going forward as well.
Colin, have you found that you've had more end users calling you in this time about kind of winning more work to try and participate in the manufacturing of these ventilators?
When you say end users, as in the engineers, or as in people who are trying to
engineers, the engineers, the manufacturers, have you found more demand for the network?
Oh, absolutely. They're all primed and ready to go. Basically, they want the work, and I alluded to this earlier, that there's a bit of frustration because they want to do the work, they're capable of doing the work, they're just waiting for these orders to come through. I mean, they're not sitting back and waiting for them, obviously, but they're waiting for these orders.
Are you capable, if you were given the work, are you capable to distribute that work throughout your network channel?
Well, as I think I mentioned earlier, got a message Sunday morning, got it straight out on the MTD network, and the guys stepped up to the market. They got all 27 different components. I think it was 20 off, 40 off of each one. So, it was a lot of different variety, all delivered by Tuesday. So they've got the capability and they can do it. And the thing is, well, it's simple because I can go out to loads of engineers with a press of a couple of buttons, whereas other people having to make 100 phone calls and things like that, I can do it with the press of a couple of buttons.
The automation element is quite interesting because I'm wondering whether we keep talking about these engineers that have automated and they're exceptionally busy. The two we mentioned, high spec and contract solutions, and I know there's a lot more. They're always very busy, aren't they? There must be people that haven't automated must look at these examples and think, hang on, they're obviously winning that work, and they're winning it because they're costing it in accordance with the kit that they've got, the ability they've got to make the parts, the speed they can make the parts. And I wonder whether what you're suggesting, Colin, about the ones that are kind of waiting for the orders, they're maybe not winning that business as quickly or as often as they want. Is it because they have not got the same capabilities maybe as the ones that have? Because the ones we see on, you mentioned the LinkedIn geo, there's plenty of companies on there that are, and quite rightly so, talking about the fact that they're doing parts for the medical industry, but they all seem to be very, very well-equipped businesses. They seem to be companies that are finely tuned. And is it the result of them winning that work because of those factors, because of the plant they've got?
They're winning the work they've got, but there's also other side of things. Taking a step back, though, there's still the skill requirement and the requirement for doing your one-offs and your bespoke and your reverse engineering stuff. So one thing doesn't fit. What's the word? What's the phrase I'm looking for? Sorry, guys, I'm thinking. It's trying to fit a square peg into a round. A be all and end all, if that makes sense. You still need these time-served engineers who can manufacture these parts and the prototypes and things like that. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it is a valid point. I think that with automation, though, you can be more competitive in regards to pricing and actually producing more parts. If it's if people were looking for the prototyping and they're capable of doing one-offs, that's brilliant. But when it comes to large volumes, I think automation is absolutely key, and it will obviously make people open their eyes. That haven't automated.
The point I was just going to say there is that the before we wrap up on the daily show, which will keep coming and it's going to get better with more and more guests, is the editing. I mean, it's very hard for our guy to edit it, especially with Colin's hair, because he's got we use a green screen. You see, if you didn't realise, and then the editor has to like cut round all his hair. So yeah, it can prove problematic sometimes in the editing. You might have even been able to witness that.
I think we need to take this issue offline, Paul. Either that or I'll invest in a hairnet.
Well, you were once known as a bit of a looker, I'm told, or was it a voyeur? I can't remember.
Well, both at the same time, actually. What's a voyeur?
Well, I think I'm going to shave my hair off soon, so I might do that for charity with no haircuts taking place at the minute. But let's move on now to question time. This was a monthly show. This is a live show where our audience have got the opportunity to discuss and ask questions live to our industry leading guests. Again, through demand in this challenging time, we have been tasked with increasing the frequency of question time so that everyone that's working from home or working from their facilities, whatever the case may be, can participate in this show. The frequency is going to increase, but what is it going to increase to, Paul?
Well, I mean, the end game is to be doing this, every day. I mean, certainly the demand's there, and I think if one thing that we've learned in the past 2 weeks is that actually there is so much technology out there to be able to, often when you're running in a business or working in a business, that's what you're doing. You're working in the day-to-day environment. You're doing the things, and it's one day the same the next, and you sometimes just don't get a chance to actually sit back and go, hang on a minute, there's a different way and different things we can offer that could be equally, if not more, impactful. And the software's there, and the intelligence is there, and the internet is there, and now the audience is there to be able to capitalize on it. And I think what you've done with Question Time is it was there when we watched it on Monday this week, when you had LK Metrology, questions coming through, not just through YouTube, but other social channels. And really, this is what people want. I mean, we have Mac coming up, which was coming up in April, which is now postponed. We were going to be doing live stuff from Mac, and it was going to be quite new to us. It was going to be the start of the future of live, but actually we've now sort of turned that on its head, and we're thinking about doing live every day as it is. So it's me. We've got a lot far quicker as a result of what's gone on, and hopefully it'll enhance our offering.
Well, two quick things. First of all, the technology. Again, we've got to big up the guys in the back there, Joff, Will, and the rest of the team, in terms of, because getting this technology up and running, and we're actually in separate houses, I can assure you, and being able to record this, absolutely fantastic. And the question time was phenomenal. The fact that Gio, even though there was a bit of a colour problem with his shirt, as to quote one of our colleagues, he looked like a bruised grape. But hey ho, there's a few minor technical problems there, but also. What does word impactful mean, Paul? Or have you just made that word up?
So the word, have you got your thesaurus? Have you got your dictionary there, or?
Well, do you think he saw us, or do I have to leg it? Anyway, moving on. Great. Just guys, in terms of moving on, we were looking to go live for Mac, obviously. Technology, because of what's happened, we've had to bring that forward a little bit more. And it's just amazing, the technology that's out there now. So companies have to, like you're on about automating stuff like that, we've also had to move forward as MTD and, address the issues and adapt and things like that. And that's what we've done. I think it's been absolutely brilliant, personally. Although I have to MTD daily with Paul is a bit of a struggle. I don't think he comprehends what social distancing is. Preferably 2 miles.
No, I think the Daily News is brilliant. I think that the willingness, what's really kind of stuck out for me is the willingness for all engineers, whether they're sellers, buyers, manufacturers, to participate in everything that we're doing is absolutely key. And I think it's absolutely brilliant for everyone, as you mentioned earlier on in the podcast, to be able to see what other people are doing, to discuss how they're doing it, to learn from it, to look at different processes. It's effectively re-educating everyone, making everyone better. And when we do come out of this, which we will, it's a perfect opportunity then to kind of reintroduce new processes, new products to their production facilities.
Yeah, I think the thing for me is as well is that I've had a lot of a lot of our customers and a lot of companies have almost said, right, for the next 4 to 6 weeks, we're not doing anything. We're going to furlough a lot of our workers. We're shutting the door. And I understand that is a reality of a lot of businesses. And, we're not in that game, in the capital goods game, although we support it. But I can't emphasize enough, I think, that, that this time is really the time to actually go, okay, because this will end. We all know this will end. And I don't want to lose a period of 4 to 6 weeks. I want to use that to make sure things like what you're talking about, QT, when we come out of this, it's a regular show. It works well. People like it. They're on it. And same with the podcast.
And you're a live driver.
Increasing the frequency of the podcasts. The videos won't stop. New websites being developed in the next 4 to 6 weeks. All of these things will mean that when all those doors open again, people will go, gee whiz, look at what they've done in the last 4 to 6 weeks. And I think we're fortunate to be in that position, but I do want to make the most of it. And I think it is an important time.
I think we're all in it together. We're absolutely everyone is in it together for the first time, whether it be, engineering company for engineering company or country. The whole world is in this situation together. And I think that, we kind of, it's a fantastic way to communicate through what we're doing and to keep the morale up effectively as well, because we've got to continue, we've got to carry on, and we've got to, if you just stop, you might as well give up. We've got to continue and get through this together, which we will. What, Colin, if you had to say the needs of the engineers at the minute, what do they need? How are they getting on? What can we help them with?
They just want the inquiries to come through. Don't hesitate in terms of sending those inquiries via network or even contacting them direct. They're ready to go, and they will prioritise the stuff for the ventilator, respirator work, absolutely. And they do have that capacity and those skills. I was chatting to one, in fact, just before this, we went live. He was saying, look, some of these guys probably don't have the technical skills in terms of assembly and stuff like that. We will go out, we'll manufacture the parts and we'll go over and see them and help them out with the assembly to make sure this gets done. So we are saving lives. So basically, our engineers are ready to crack on. Absolutely.
Colin, for people that are looking for people to make these parts for them, how should they get in touch? And also for people that are looking to make the parts, how should they get in touch with you? What is the best way both buyers and sellers can get in touch with you?
Well, the easiest route is mtd.network. That's what you need to put into your URL, onto your internet browser.
Brilliant.
Or should I give them one? I mean, I've given my number out to numerous people. Some I don't want to hear from again, but joking aside, feel free to call me 07971 002267. How's that for a big move?
Brilliant. And now, sorry, Carl. Sorry, mate.
No, that's all right. I'm done. Well, I suppose email as well, colin@mtdcnc.com. Nice and easy.
Brilliant. Thanks, Colin. Now, the podcasts, as we mentioned at the very beginning of the show, are going to be increased to 3 days a week. So Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays. The MTD podcast, where we're going to be discussing the week in review, is going to be between ourselves, which is going to be released every Friday to touch upon the points in which we believe the engineers want to learn about, to discuss. Paul, any last thoughts?
Yeah, definitely. I think you've correctly said, we're all in this together. We are all, here to make the best of a bad situation, and we all look forward really to, better days in weeks to come. Hopefully, weeks, and not too many weeks. The some of the online stuff we've been talking about, you just keep tuned to the channel Swarf and Chips, which will be on today at 12:30. That show is going to be, or has been, filmed remotely, and that will give you an indication as to how we're going to go forward and how we're going to continue to portray those messages. But we want everyone to keep safe, and from our perspective, we really hope, and I'm sure the industry will come out of this as quickly as we possibly can.
Thanks, Paul. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you very much, Colin, aka Joe Wicks. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you both on this podcast. If you've been listening to this podcast, if any of the points in the podcast have been interesting to you, please comment, subscribe to the MTD podcast off your iPhones, smartphones, on all different platforms. Thank you very much, and until next week, or until Monday now, the MTD podcast.
Thanks for listening to the MTD Podcast. If you found value in this episode, please subscribe and leave a rating and review. Find more episodes on mtdcnc.com.